This is going to be a completely free course on how you can use ChatGPT. And I guarantee you, if you watch this video from start to finish, you'll become an expert to ChatGPT user. We'll be going over 15 different types of command prompts that you guys can use. And yeah, I think you're going to be blown away by just how powerful ChatGPT is and the wide range of things that it can help you with. So what I recommend you guys do is not only watch this video, as you watch it, follow along, create your own account, enter in the prompts with me, and I guarantee you that's going to be a much better way to learn. So let's get started. All right, so I have ChatGPT opened up right here. If you guys go to ai.com, it's going to bring you to this page. And we'll be linking this down below, so it's a little easier for you guys. But the first thing you're going to want to do is come here and click sign up. Now, if you already have an account, you guys can click log in, of course, but I'll show you guys how to do this. Basically, it's going to want your email address. And another way to actually create your account is by signing in with Google or with your Microsoft account. So you'll enter in your email address here and click continue. It'll send you an email to confirm your account. And once you confirm your email, you'll be able to access your account. So this is the dashboard for ChatGPT. As you guys can see, I have ChatGPT Plus, which is $20 per month as I am filming this video, but this is not required. As long as you guys use ChatGPT 3.5 default or legacy, these are going to be completely free to use. And if you do, however, want to try GPT-4, you guys can pay for this account, but it's not necessary. And in this video, I'll just be showing you guys how to use the ChatGPT for free. So the 3.5 version as I'm filming this video. So over here on the left is where you can create new chats. And the really cool thing about ChatGPT is that each of these new chats, it sort of remembers what you type. So you can view each of these chats over here as like a new conversation. It'll be able to remember the context of other answers that it gives you within that chat. So you can sort of view each of these chats as a separate person who you've already had a conversation with, if that makes sense. Now, you guys do need to know that there are some limitations. Limitations with ChatGPT. All the data that ChatGPT has learned only goes up to September of 2021. So if there's anything that has happened since then, it's not going to know that that has happened. So just take that into account when asking it certain questions, right? It's not going to be able to answer questions on current events. Also, not every single answer or 100% of its response is going to be accurate. There may be some discrepancies. There may be some errors. So it's always important to fact check to make sure that the answer is accurate and correct. So now let's talk about the different command types. And the first one we're talking about today is asking ChatGPT for specific facts or details. And by the way, we're going to be going from sort of like basic stuff to more advanced things. So yeah, just keep that in mind. So just like with Google, you can ask ChatGPT to give you certain facts, right? So for example, I can come down here and I can ask, who's the founder of Apple? It's going to give us our answer. The co-founders of Apple are Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne. This type of command prompt is not that interesting because you can literally do this with Google or any other search engine. But the cool thing about ChatGPT is that it's more of like a conversation. Instead of searching on Google and having to look through different websites to get your actual answer, this is going to sort of summarize all that information from all the data it's learned from and present that information to you with a written response. So it's sort of like the Google Knowledge Panel that you guys may have seen, which basically gives you a summary of the answer. And this is just like a better version of that. You guys can get creative with the types of answers and facts that you want to ask it. And really, it should be able to answer almost anything you throw at it. Just another example. Let's say, who wrote the book, How to Kill a Mockingbird? So it presents as our answer, and that is correct. Yes, super, super basic. And that's just the first command type that we're talking about. All right. The second command type is actually asking for suggestions. I'm going to create a new chat here, and we can begin asking ChatGPT for suggestions on pretty much any topic. So I'm really into self-development. I can ask you something like, recommend 5 books about self-development. So as you guys can see, I've asked it to recommend 5 books, and I've been very specific with that about a topic, which is self-development. All right. So that is the answer that it's given me. If you guys don't like the answer that it's given you, you guys can always click regenerate response. So I'm actually going to click on that right here just to show you guys. It's going to go ahead and recreate that answer. It'll likely be different every single time. And yeah, as you guys can see, now we see this little thing right here, 2 of 2. This means that there have been 2 answers generated for this specific prompt, and we can actually toggle back and forth between these 2 different answers. And of course, we can keep regenerating. It'll have a 3rd one and so on. Now, one thing you guys can do is actually click the thumbs up or the thumbs down button. This is more to train the AI. So if there's something in here that's completely incorrect, of course, you guys can click on this. It's going to ask you to provide some additional feedback. And you guys can submit that feedback, and you guys can also ask it something like, what are some good shows to watch on Netflix? Now, again, the data only goes up to September of 2021 as of right now. So nothing on this list is going to be brand new, but this does seem like a pretty good list of shows. A lot of these I do really enjoy. So yeah, you can sort of view ChatGPT as a concierge. You can pretty much ask it anything, and it's going to know the answer to it. All right, so the next command prompt we're talking about is language translation. So not a lot of people know this, but ChatGPT is basically a Google Translate on steroids. It's a much better version. It's going to be able to translate text a lot better. And that's because it takes context and social cues into context. So with Google Translate, you're only getting an actual word-for-word translation. With ChatGPT, it knows how things are actually said in real use. And it's going to take all that information and be able to synthesize a really good translation for you. So let's go ahead and try that right here. What I like to do is I like to first give ChatGPT some context. So I'm going to say something like, I'm currently traveling in Spain. I'm at a restaurant, and I want to ask the waiter, what are your 3 most popular dishes? Can you translate this for me? Of course, you guys can ask the same exact question in many, many different ways, but this is just how I've asked it in this situation. You guys can see it knows exactly what I'm asking for. It has that context, and it's going to give us the translation, which is this right here. Now, you might not know how to actually pronounce that, so we can go, how do you pronounce that? And the great thing is that it knows what you're asking. It's going to give us the actual pronunciation, and yeah, that's super cool. Really, really useful for a real world situation. So not only is this really good for spoken language translation when you're out and about, and it's also really good for written translation as well. So if you have blog articles, if you have emails, basically anything that's written, you can basically copy it here and have it translated for you. The prompt for this is basically just going to be translate. We can do something like that and then write in the text. If we have all, let me just copy this right here. And let's actually say translate into Chinese. Okay, so it's going to turn that into written Chinese. And it's also going to tell us the pronunciation. And yeah, get really creative with this. And this is just a very cool feature of ChatGPT. It's like having a language scholar available at any time that you can literally just talk to. All right, so the next command prompt that we're talking about today is comparing different things. ChatGPT is very, very good at this. It has so much information and data that's scraped from, and so that's why it can provide very good answers for you guys. So let's go through an example right here. What is the difference between cats and dogs as pets? Super random, right? But it's going to be able to compare these 2 different things. And so, yeah, even if you give it a very basic prompt like this, it'll be able to create a very cool answer. And so if we look through this, it looks pretty good. It talks about behavior, care requirements, relationship with owners, and also gives us a little summary. Now, let's say, for example, this is too long and you want this to be written with, let's say, 200 words or less. We can say, rewrite this in under 200 words. And let's say it's also a little bit too complex for us. We can actually say, but pretend like you're writing to a complete beginner or someone that is in 5th grade. Okay, so let's click that and it's going to generate that. You can see now the language is a lot easier. It's a lot shorter. And instead of talking about those different categories, which is a little bit more advanced, it's just breaking down into cats and then dogs and then doing a quick little summary like that. So this is obviously a lot more easy to understand for someone that's in 5th grade. And so that's another cool trick with ChatGPT. You can literally tell it the tone you want to use, who's going to be the one reading the content. So it's going to know how to write it, as well as the number of words you want it to generate. You can also ask it something like, what are the differences between iOS and Android? And bam, this is giving us a very, very good answer. And of course, I always recommend you guys give it feedback. So literally think of ChatGPT as a person. You can tell it literally anything, right? You can be like, this was too long. This was too hard to read. I didn't like this response. Can you focus more on the security portion or can you focus more on the hardware? It's so open to any feedback you have for it, and it's going to take that into consideration. Remember it as context. And so like I said earlier, this chat right here, it remembers everything that you've said as well as everything that is said. And as you build more and more context within this chat, it's going to give you even better answers. All right, so the next command prompt is having ChatGPT do creative writing for you. Now, this is one of the big places where ChatGPT shines. It is a written word AI, of course. So it's actually very, very strong at taking your prompts and creating written responses. And with creative writing, you guys, it can literally be anything. You can have ChatGPT write emails. We can have it write an email template for us. We can have it write an email response. We can have it write blogs. We can have it write songs. We can have it write a play, a short story. We can have it write jokes. Literally anything you guys want to be written, ChatGPT can do. You just need to ask it to do it. So for example, let's start off with something more fun. Let's have it write us a short story. All right. So I've write a short story about a caterpillar that falls off a tree, loses his family, and then is reunited. Make sure it's super funny and make it a feel-good story. So I've given it the general storyline, and I've also said, I want it to be funny and I want it to be a feel-good story. So we've given it pretty specific context. Of course, if we have other requirements, I'd recommend putting that in this prompt. We can give it as many requirements as we want, and it's going to generate a short story for us. So I'll click enter and it's going to immediately start making a story. You can see it named the caterpillar Carl. I didn't put that, but it's very, very creative. It's going to come up with things like that. And bam, we have a story about Carl the caterpillar that loses his family, but is reunited. Now, let's say I want this story to be turned into a song, right? Rewrite this as a song, bam. It's going to start generating lyrics to a song. It's going to have like verses, choruses, all that stuff. And it's going to tell that story within the lyrics, which is really, really cool. And let's say we want this to be a poem, rewrite this as a poem. We can say we want it to be a haiku. We want to have this many syllables, and you can get really, really specific. So just know that whatever you want ChatGPT to write, it can basically do it for you. Another use case for this is having it write emails for you. All right. So write me an email to the Land Rover car dealership saying that they overcharged me on the repair. And if possible, I'd like them to look into it. It was a repair on the windshield that happened last Thursday. My name's Charlie. The other person I'm addressing to is called Frank. Be super nice in the email, right? So I've given it a lot of context. I've told it what I want to be included in, and I've told it also to be super nice. So let's see what this spits out. I've actually used this to respond to emails. Believe it or not, it actually does a very good job. And if you guys read this, I think it actually sounds pretty good. I could pretty much take this, paste it into my Gmail and send it. If you want something that's more, it's more personalized. Like this, you can also have it create email templates for you. So for example, let's say you are applying to a bunch of jobs, you can have it create a template outlining a few things that you want to include. All right, let's see what this gives us. Cool. So it's going to have brackets where we can enter in the person's name and a bunch of other brackets for your name, the company name, all that stuff. And yeah, this looks really, really good. So again, maybe not the exact email you want to send out. You guys can take this as a draft and put in your own little spin to it. But I think that's a very great starting place. Again, get really creative with this. There are so many things you guys can have ChatGPT write for you. The possibilities are literally endless. All right. So the next type of command prompt we can use from ChatGPT is having it brainstorm ideas for us. ChatGPT is actually extremely smart. I've used this many, many times, and the ideas it gives you, they're actually really, really good. So let's go through an example right here. All right, so I'm having a birthday party for about 20 friends. We want to do something outdoors that costs under $50 per person. Can you give me 5 ideas on what to do? Pretty specific. Click enter. So bam, now it's given us 5 good ideas. We have beach day, outdoor movie night, bike tour, hike, or picnic in the park. So I think those are really good ideas. Let's say we want to have it, talk more about one of those. We can say something like expand on picnic in the park. So give me these step by step. Okay. So now it's going to give us a step-by-step guide for organizing a picnic in the park, which I think is super cool. So yeah, you can sort of view ChatGPT as being able to help you come up with ideas for pretty much anything, right? Like right here, we talked about a birthday party given a few requirements. We could also do something like if you're starting a business and you don't know what type of business name to actually choose, we can have ChatGPT come up with a list that work. All right. So I've given it some context on what my business is, and we're going to ask, what are some good business name ideas? Give me 8 names perfectly under 20 characters. Now it's going to brainstorm this and give us 8 possible business name ideas. Of course, I always recommend you guys take a look at this, give it feedback. Let's say those names sound too boring. Give me another 10. Now it's going to give us 10 other ones that hopefully are a little bit more exciting and less boring. So let's say you really like Perfect Prep. We're going to say, give me 5 more like Perfect Prep. It's now going to know that we like that specific name. So it's going to give us something that are more similar. So it's going to give us ideas that are more similar to that. And we get super creative, guys. We can even ask, how would you build this business? And yeah, now it's going to brainstorm how you guys can actually, start this business. The next type of command prompt is summarizing text for us. So one thing that ChatGPT is extremely, extremely good at is taking long pieces of text and being able to turn it into a much more concise piece of text. So I've gone ahead and copied over parts of chapter 1 of Pride and Prejudice. And what I'm going to do here is say, summarize this text. Okay, we'll click Shift Enter and I'll paste that right here. So BAMIT already knows that it's from this book, and it's going to give us a summary about what that text is saying. We don't even actually need to give it text. We can just say something like, summarize Pride and Prejudice, it's going to give us an AI generated summary. We can say something like, rewrite this in outline format. I've gone ahead and copied over some text from OpenAI, which talks about the methods that they've used to create ChatGPT. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, summarize this text, but make it understandable for a 10-year-old. Okay, bam, that's very, very easy. Okay, let's say summarize that, but explain it to a college student. Now this is going to create that same thing, but have it be a little bit more complex, more suited for a college student. And yeah, one great thing with ChatGPT is that we can enter in a bunch of information. We can ask ChatGPT to summarize it, to create bullet points with it, to rewrite it, just make it more easily digestible for different types of people. All right. The next command prompt is having it generate different lists for us. So for example, let's write something like this. I'm trying to lose weight. Give me a list of top 10 foods to eat that are healthy. It's going to go ahead and create that list of 10 different things. Yeah, this is obviously very useful for gathering information. And let's say I forgot to say that I'm a vegan. Now it's going to be like, oh, whoops, we didn't know that you were a vegan. Now that we know, here's another list of 10 things that you can eat. Yeah, if you guys are trying to do research for an article, for an essay, for a school assignment, or pretty much anything, this is a really great way to come up with like different things that you guys can include in that piece of written content. Of course, you can even have ChatGPT just write out the essay for you or whatever it is. I don't condone, plagiarism, because if you do actually just copy it and, submit that as your own work, that is considered plagiarism. There are more and more tools out there that are pretty good at seeing if text is AI generated. So yeah, instead of just doing that, which I don't recommend, take the text, rewrite parts of it, like incorporate your own words into it. Not for me, at least, this is the best way to create written content. Another command prompt that's very cool with ChatGPT is having it give you pros and cons for certain topics. For example, let's say that we are deciding between a traditional sauna and infrared sauna, and we want to know the pros and cons of each. Again, this is basically just like doing a bunch of research for you from information that's scraped from the internet. As you guys can see here, it's formatted really well. It starts off with the traditional sauna, goes over the pros and then the cons. Essentially, you guys can see that ChatGPT is just really good at giving you guys a bunch of research that is presented in different ways. So you guys can have it presented in a list, pros and cons, summarized, literally do whatever you want it to do. So the next command prompt that we're talking about is having ChatGPT request same quotes or studies for you. So it's creating a new chat. Here's something that we could write. Define 3 scientific studies about optimal number of hours of sleep and summarize each study finding. So it's going to give you the study name. It's going to tell you the summary of it. And yeah, it's going to do that 3 times since that's what we asked it for. It's a really great way to get, like actual data-backed answers. I will say that you want to confirm that these studies were actually done. Sometimes ChatGPT can confuse different studies and mix them together. So just make sure that this is an actual study and that this is the actual, data that was found from that study. It's also very good at finding you quotes. So let's say, give me 3 quotes about success. Bam, we have 3 different quotes. Let's say, give me 3 quotes about how amazing ChatGPT is. We can even say, what are the 3 most famous quotes from, let's say, Elon Musk? And yeah, it's just so good at scraping information from the web and presenting it in this like very easy conversational style format. Okay, the next command type that we're talking about is giving you feedback on your text. This is super, super cool. And not that many people use ChatGPT for this. So what I'm basically going to do is I'm going to copy some text that I wrote for my website, and I'm going to have it actually give me feedback on what's good and what's bad. So if you're a teacher, you can actually use ChatGPT to sort of help you grade essays and papers. So you can see I entered in this text right here, asked it to give me the good and the bad and what I can improve on. So it's going to summarize like what it thinks about what I wrote. It says it likes the use of personal anecdotes, which is super cool, that it knows that. And then one thing it says actually improved is the organization of the text. We can even be like, how would you rewrite this text? Okay, and now it's going to give us a possible rewrite of the text, which is super cool. Nice. Let's actually enter in some more text and let's say, give me a grade for this short essay. Okay. Unfortunately, it's not going to give me a grade, but it's still going to give us feedback on this text. Of course, we can have a rewrite it. We have a rewrite it in under 50 words. We can even say something like provide an analysis of my writing style. And so let's rewrite that there. It's going to tell us my writing style. It's concise and to the point. And yeah, think of it just like as a writing tutor. You can just literally ask anything. You'd be like, how would you'd be like, how would you change this? What things would you add? What things would you take out? are there any better, more advanced words I can use? It can literally help do anything with any text that you put it. And so, yeah, if you're writing a lot of text, then ChatGPT is definitely a very good tool because it's going to make your writing a lot better. So the next command prompt we're talking about is actually using ChatGPT to role play with you. So like we mentioned, ChatGPT can basically be like another person that you can talk to. And so one really cool use case is assigning some type of identity to ChatGPT and having it actually talk with you, simulate the conversation or whatever it is. So let's say this, you are interviewing me for a job at Microsoft. Please conduct a practice interview with me. So now it's asking me, tell me a little bit about yourself and the position you're applying for. We'll give a response. All right. So obviously this is not just one question. It's asking me 8 different questions, but basically what I can do is I can respond to those questions, or I can pick one of them and respond to it. And it's going to give me a response. So let's say I make money or something like that. Okay. It's going to give its response, ask a follow-up question, and you can sort of go on from there. You know, you can basically spend hours and hours talking to ChatGPT after assigning it some type of identity. And so it's pretty cool to role play different situations if you do want to practice different scenarios. You can also, of course, have it give you feedback on how you did and ask it things like, what would have been a better response to that? Because another type of role playing you guys can do is if you're trying to learn a language, you can role play by, having a conversation in that language. So we can say something like this. Obviously, that was not role playing. It just gave us a sample conversation. So let's say now it's going to start doing that. We can say bonjour. Okay, obviously that's not working too well, but I think you guys get the point. Make sure you guys give it enough context and be very clear on what you want ChatGPT to do. Okay, so the next type of command prompt is having ChatGPT explain different concepts. Here's one use case scenario of this. So let's actually have ChatGPT answer a question for us. More specifically, a math question. Okay, if a circle has a diameter of 10 centimeters, what is the area? This is actually going to answer the question and tell us different steps it took to get that answer. You guys can see it first found the radius and then plugged it into this formula, a equals pi r squared, which is correct. Let's say you actually don't understand the concept of that formula, right? Can you explain the formula of finding the area of a circle? Now it's going to go into more detail about this formula, what each of these things are, why this works. So yeah, this is a really great way to have ChatGPT explain different concepts that you may not understand. It's basically like a free tutor, right? Like if I were to ask my tutor this question, they would also answer it. Pretty similar to this. If this is too long, you can say, make it shorter. It'll rewrite that, but make it, more concise. We can even ask a question like this, how to bake a cake. And if you don't know how banks smash or collapse, it's going to tell you all the different ways in which they can, of course, this is the reason why SVB and other banks have just crashed. But of course, it's not going to know those current events since that was very recent. The next type of command prompt is actually asking ChatGPT what to ask it. So asking ChatGPT for what types of commands you can give it. So I have an essay I wrote, and I want to know what types of commands I can ask you regarding editing my content. So bam, these are all different command prompts that you guys can ask ChatGPT after putting in your essay. And this is just a really great way to learn more about the different things you guys can do in ChatGPT. This video is pretty comprehensive, but of course, we're not going to be able to cover everything you guys can do. So what I recommend doing is after watching this video, if there's still other scenarios or things you want to potentially explore with ChatGPT, you can always ask ChatGPT what you can ask it. I know it sounds funny, but it's definitely a really good way to learn more about ChatGPT. For example, I can put in, how can I use ChatGPT to help me write code? So you're essentially asking it how you can use it to help you with your stuff. And this is a great command prompt because it's going to tell you exact things that you guys can actually type. It's going to bring up different use case scenarios. If you guys have any questions about ChatGPT, just literally ask ChatGPT the question, right? It's going to know it. And then the last command type we're talking about is using ChatGPT as your mentor. Now, this whole channel is about like entrepreneurship and building businesses and stuff like that. And the great thing is that ChatGPT has a lot of knowledge and you can actually ask it for a lot of life advice. All right, so I'm a two-year-old college grad and I want to start a business. I have $1,000 and want to do a service-based business that I enjoy doing. I like photography, tutoring, and website. Can you give me 5 ideas for businesses I can start, as well as what I can name them? This is basically something that you'd ask someone that you are learning from, right? And it's going to go ahead and spit out 5 answers. And I think these are actually pretty good. And remember, these are full-on conversations. So think about this as someone having just said this to you, right? So let's say you want to do photography. If photography, I can say, I think photography would be really cool. How would I go about that? That's going to tell you more about how you can actually start your photography business. Give you all the different steps. We could be like, what website builder should I use to build my portfolio website? It's going to give us a list of a bunch of different website builders. And so, yeah, basically you just continue this conversation, view ChatGPT as your mentor. It has access to so much knowledge. I will say the only thing that ChatGPT doesn't have is accountability. So you can ask it for all this information and advice, but it won't be able to hold you accountable, which is the most important thing. It's just something to be aware of. Overall, you just need to think of ChatGPT as a very, very, very smart person in every single topic there is out there. Think of it as like an assistant, as a mentor, as a friend, as a storyteller, as a researcher, whatever it is. And if you use these 15 different command types, you'll be able to make your life so much easier. ChatGPT can help you in all your personal life stuff, as well as your business life stuff. It can have you plan out vacations for you, create itineraries. Yeah, the main thing is that you need to treat this as a bot that knows everything. And with all bots, it's all about the commands that you input. So here's some of my big tips that will make the answers you get infinitely better. One is you need to be super, super specific and very clear with your prompt. The last thing you want is ambiguity, because that's going to introduce a lot of unknown variables. So the more clear and the more specific you are with your question, the more the context you're actually giving it. And then the better the answer is going to be. Also get comfortable with giving a lot of feedback. So I think a lot of people don't realize just how important the feedback is. The more feedback you give it, the better the answers it's going to give you. The more fine-tuned those answers are going to be. Yeah, another is you have to be super, super patient, and it's still an AI software that's being tested. It's going to have bugs. Not everything is going to work perfectly all the time. And also, at first, it's going to take you guys a while to be able to know what questions to ask, what type of context to give, what type of commands to give. It may take you guys a good amount of time to get the desired answer. So you have to be patient with this. You need to be able to ask more questions. You have to be able to give it feedback. And yeah, that takes a lot of time. Sort of think of yourself as a journalist, right? You can ask follow-up questions. You guys can get feedback. You can hone in on certain points that you want to talk about more or get more details on. Get really good with your communication, because that's going to help you with ChatGPT. So anyways, I hope you guys found this tutorial helpful. We covered so many different things. And yeah, feel free to reference this video at any point, because I know you probably don't remember everything we talked about. But hopefully you guys did follow along with your own ChatGPT. And that's really going to make sure that the things we talked about today, stay in your head. Now you guys can actually take action with these command prompts and incorporate them into your own lives. Anyways, thank you guys so much for your time. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit that like button and also subscribe for more content just like this. I do a ton of content about personal finance, entrepreneurship, as well as investing on this channel. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next video.